Hello to everyone. This is one of you with Shirley Pope. It's a Tuesday, the 29th of January. This is the 29th day of the year 2019. 2019. This is a day that God has made. I'm rejoicing and I'm glad in this day. And I hope you are too. In spite of everything that's happening in our worlds, in the whole entire world, we're yet thankful to God for everything, for everything, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. We thank God because He is merciful. Point of view today is entitled, or I'm talking about, selfishness in marriages. There are billions of us who are married, have been married, are divorced, have been divorced, or widowed. We've been in the situation, in a marriage situation. And so many times, because of selfishness on one part or both parts, marriages haven't lasted like they should. Okay, so it ends in divorce, and sometimes it ends up in worse situations, worse with worse consequences than divorce. So we'll talk about selfishness in a marriage, and we're talking about 7 ways of that selfishness can be in the marriage, and then we're going to talk about defeating the selfishness in the marriage. And I'm in markmerrill.com and I'm in familylife.com. So I'm going to use those two pieces for the subject today. You can reach me at 214-403-7563. And the point of view one at yahoo.com. Very seldom do I get emails on there. So you can reach me. You can reach me on the World Wide Web, the avenues, the different ones. Shirley Polk Davis. Okay. I'm so grateful because God has allowed me this avenue to come to you and to talk to you. And you can talk to me too. You can speak with me. You can call me. You can email me. You can message me on any of the sites that I'm on. Okay? On this World Wide Web. Now we'll go into our topics here. I want to make sure that I don't get off base here. 7 signs of selfishness in a marriage. 7 signs of selfishness in a marriage. And this is markmerrill.com. www.markmerrill, M-A-R-K. Let me make sure I get it right. Markmerrill. Right? Now we'll go into it. These won't be long discussions today. It won't be a long thing, but there are 7 signs of selfishness in a marriage. It's the greatest enemy of every marriage. Selfishness is the greatest enemy of every marriage. And sometimes it tends to sneak up on us. Really, it does, okay? Most couples start out doing all they can to serve each other, to make each other happy. And we know how that goes. We start out trying to do the best we can. Many of us, and I think it would be most of us, I could say the majority of us, start out trying to make it into the best that we can and to be happy ever after and to live happily ever after. But many times it just doesn't work. And selfishness is one of the culprits. But somewhere along the way, a willingness to go to the end of the world for the other person gets overtaken by a reluctance to even cross the room to get them something or move towards them. Isn't that something how change can just come in? Selfishness is about more than just refusing to share the last piece of your candy bar, however. It's an attitude that subtly permeates many of the ways we can think and act. I mean, it just comes in subtly. It doesn't just rush in. It just sneaks its way in there. And before you know it, something's going on and you don't understand what has happened. But it gradually crept in. Okay? To take a closer look at these seven signs of selfishness and see where they may be becoming an issue in your life and relationship. And even if it's not your life, you can tell somebody else, hey, point of view with Shirley Polk talked about marriage problems, and the main topic of that day is selfishness in the marriage. And tell them she even gave 7 examples by way of markmarrow.com to look for 7 signs of selfishness in the marriage. Number one is my needs. It's very easy to focus more on what we want or think we are due, than our spouse's side of things, whether that's a desire for more frequent physical intimacy or a greater understanding about the challenges I am facing at work. But what about them? It's important to remember that we are wired differently. We must remember this. We are wired differently. Every person's brain is wired differently and have different needs. Okay, so listen in on this. There's a podcast that they suggest here. Okay, the needs of women versus needs of men. And so I'll let you go there. Now, here is a little quote here. See, it's very easy for us to focus more on what we want or think we are due than our spouse's side of things. And so I just read that just a few minutes ago. Now, number two, talking about selfishness. This is the second of the 7 selfishnesses that we're talking about today that can enter into a marriage. My expectations. Many couples each have an unspoken list of how they think life should be, with their quiet resentment building each time things don't go their way. But if you don't tell your spouse what your expectations are and discuss together how reasonable they are, you can't blame them for not meeting them. Okay? You can't blame them for not meeting them. If you don't tell them, if you don't discuss them, you cannot blame them for not meeting your expectations because they just don't know. Okay? Now it's another story if you tell them and they do know and then they don't want to meet your expectations, your reasonable expectations. Okay? Now maybe once you talk together, you'll realize you need to adjust. Every marriage needs adjustment. Everyone. All right? Number three, my feelings. Talking about signs of selfishness. Number three is my feelings. Hurt and anger cloud our abilities to hear what other people are saying. We tend to get either aggressive or defensive, or sometimes just shut down. Okay, and here's a consideration here. Consider, do you control your emotions or do your emotions control you? That's something to consider. Now, what about your spouse? How are they feeling about that situation or conversation? If you really want to know, ask them. Communication. We're talking about 7 signs of selfishness in a marriage. This is really, really, really good to me. Okay. Now, number 4, my options. We don't have to agree on everything, but agreeing to differ means more than just not thinking alike. It means hearing the other person out and being comfortable with that. You understand that? This is really good. It's practical, down to earth. It really is. And does your spouse feel free to share what they think, even if you disagree? Or do you shut them down when they share what they are thinking? Please think about it. Think about it. If you have some acquaintances or friends that you feel need this information, let them know about this. Let them know about this webcast, okay? 214-403-7563. This can really help, all right? And when God blesses me with another husband, according to his will, when he blesses me, I will have this already in my mind. And then when I was, Ella Davis and I were married to each other for 15 years and 10 months exactly. And we learned each other, we compromised, we had a great marriage. And I thank God for that. So I can, when God blesses me with my next husband, then I can even do a better job at being a wife. I really believe that. And this is going to help me too. All right. My agenda is number 5. We don't have to do everything I want when I want and the way I want. Okay. My agenda. Talking about my agenda. Okay. Talking about selfishness in marriages. Okay. Here are 7 signs, and this is number 5. Talk about my agenda. It's amazing how little things, what you want for dinner, the way you load the dishwasher, what temperature to run the AC at, can become big sources of conflict. Isn't that amazing? And we know it's true. We know it's true. In Confessions from a Controlling Spouse, that evidently is a book or it's a blog, okay? He says, I share how I realized that being a take charge kind of guy could be damaging to my marriage. So these are links that you can click on, okay? But I'm not going to click on them because you can do that, all right? When you go to this site, all right? Number 6, my career, 7 signs of selfishness in a marriage. It's easy to hide behind work demands to avoid important issues and situations in your marriage. It's also easy to focus on what we want in our career without really considering what our spouse wants. And he still goes on to say, as I wrote about in this blog, it says sometimes we need to turn down opportunities for career advancement to protect our most important relationships. That is so super duper. Okay? He is saying sometimes we need to turn down opportunities for career advancement to protect our most important relationships. And coming to that, I can't help but think about, oh gosh, there's a situation I think about where promotions came in the family, and one it seems that had the aspirations and was really moving up the ladder has now had to take a back seat to the other one, and the other one has constantly moved up the ladder. And it's something, it's really something. And those things happen all the time. So we have to compromise, and we have to be ready for whatever comes, and we have to consider that there is selfishness that can creep in to the marriage. And so in situations like this and that, then you have to really be bound together in spirit and be able to work through these things, because selfishness, jealousy and jealousy brings us strife, and then all kinds of things can just run rampant in that marriage if we don't get an understanding, okay? Number 7, signs of selfishness, my family. Family dynamics can be challenging indeed. In-law issues are one of the 5 big marital issues that need to be addressed. Do you get along with each other's relatives? Is it my family? I'm not good at this. And your family? Or is it our family? All right? Selfishness is all about getting, getting. That's what I'm saying, okay? Selfishness is all about giving. Are you giving to and serving your spouse? My. Which of these 7 selfish traits is your weakest area and why? Ask yourself that. What can you do to begin to change and bring more life into your marriage as a result? So you can share these thoughts and comments on this site. And please share this with others. Don't be afraid to suggest it to your friends. Don't be inhibited by your feelings of maybe offending someone. If you see that someone needs some help, go ahead and tell them about this. Tell them to watch Point of View with Shirley Pope, okay? 214-403-7563. Now we're going to our next topic, which is defeating selfishness in your marriage. And this is family life. That come defeating selfishness in your marriage. And I told you this won't be a long presentation, but it's to the point, okay? And which is a really, really good topic. Defeating selfishness in your marriage. And I've been through some gruesome, am I saying the right words, some hurtful times in a marriage. And I know that being young, I probably didn't do everything I was supposed to do, but I wasn't the total blame, and neither was the other party. We just were not able to work through these things, and I thank God that time has brought about education. And one thing about it is there's no animosity on my part about any of that. They just didn't work, and that's it. But we are family, okay? Now, I'm learning so much in my latter days, and I learned so much. I research, I try to get information that will help me, help you. We can all learn these things and be better people. It's not just for me. I like to share, and I don't mind sharing. I don't hog it all to myself, okay? Defeating selfishness in your marriage. Marriage offers a tremendous opportunity to do something about our tendency to go our own way. The Bible tells us that we're no more two, but we are one. No more two, but we are one. I am going to zoom in my font here so I can keep a good eye on this and read it real good without squinting. Maintaining harmony in a marriage has been difficult since Adam and Eve. Two people tried to go their own selfish, separate ways can never hope to experience the oneness of marriage as God intended. The prophet Isaiah portrayed the problem accurately more than 2,500 years ago when he described basic human selfishness like this. All of us, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way. Isaiah 53, verse 6. You know I'm liking this, don't you? Selfishness is possibly the most dangerous threat to oneness in marriage. It affects how we talk to each other, how we divide responsibilities in the home, how we resolve conflicts, and even how we spend our time. Men stubbornly ignore the needs of their wives, for real, and wives do the same thing. In so many situations, they prefer fishing or hunting or playing golf or even spending an extra hour or two at the office. So I once met a pastor who frequented Christian bookstores and libraries for the sole purpose of avoiding his wife. Now that is something, isn't it? But you know what? That's not the only one that does that. Okay? And I have counseled women who spend countless hours shopping, not for their families, but to avoid responsibilities at home and to gratify themselves. Now, just how do we avoid the bitter fruit of selfishness in a marriage? How do we avoid it? This is so good. Surrender is the key. In our first years of marriage, and he says Dennis, okay, was more than a bit selfish. He says, after being single for 25 years, I was skilled at looking out for my own needs. But when I took Barbara as my wife, I assumed a new responsibility, loving Barbara as Christ loved the church. Okay? Now that demanded death to self, but myself didn't want to die. This is Dennis talking, okay? Now, after we were married, it didn't take Barbara long to learn about my genuine 14 carat tendency to be lazy, which was closely linked to my enjoyment of television. I thought Saturdays were mine to thoroughly enjoy as I pleased. Following the pattern I'd learned from my dad, this is Dennis talking, okay? I would get soft drinks and chips, crawl into my chair, and settle down to watch hours of baseball, football, tennis, golf. It didn't matter what the sport. I just wanted to become a giant amoeba, a blob of molecules with flat brain waves, mesmerized by hours of boob tube gazing. Now, what was wrong with this picture? Barbara needed my help in doing tasks and running errands. All right? Talking about selfishness in a marriage and how to defeat it. All right? Now, marriage offers a tremendous opportunity to do something about selfishness. Someone may say, there is no hope. I can't give him to change. Or what's the use? Or I can't get him to change. Please excuse me. What's the use? She'll never be any different. Okay, these are hopeless quotes. Okay, it seems. All right. Now, Barbara and I know there is hope because we learned to apply a plan that is bigger than human self centeredness. See, just thinking about it, God will guide you. He will guide you through if you let Him. Through principles taught in Scripture, we have learned how to set aside our selfish interests for the good of each other as well as for the profit of our marriage. Now, willing to be last is the next subtopic. We have seen the Bible's plan work in our lives, and we're still seeing it work daily. Barbara hasn't changed me, nor have I changed her. God has changed both of us. We're talking about defeating selfishness in the marriage. The answer for ending selfishness is found in Jesus and his teachings. He showed us that instead of wanting to be first, we must be willing to be last. Instead of wanting to be served, we must serve. Instead of trying to save our lives, we must lose them. We must love our neighbors, and in this case, our spouses, as much as we love ourselves. In short, we want to defeat selfishness. We must give up, give in, and give all. If we want to defeat selfishness, we must give up, give in, and give all. I like that. Now, if we live our lives for ourselves, thinking only of our selfish desires and interests, in the end, God gives us exactly what we want ourselves. My. Marriage provides the opportunity to live life for someone else and to avoid this terrible conclusion: all I've got is me. I can't depend on anyone else. We don't have to be like that, okay? We don't have to be like that. So that's why we're here where we are right now, learning how to defeat selfishness in the marriage. Now, here's a parable of the porcupines, and this is in FamilyLife.com. What we need the most is to be in a relationship with another person who accepts us as we are and doesn't reject us. But the closer I get to Barbara, this is Dennis still talking, okay, the more she becomes aware of who I really am, and the possibility of her rejecting me grows even greater. Now, a well-known story catches the pain of the human dilemma when it compares relating to each other to the predicament of two porcupines freezing in the winter cold. Shivering in the frigid air, the two porcupines move closer together to share body heat and warmth. But when their sharp spines and quills prick each other painfully and they move apart, victims once more of the bitter cold around them. Soon they feel they must come together once more or freeze to death. But their quills cause too much pain and they have to part again. Many marriages are just like that. We can't stand the cold, that means the isolation from each other, but we desperately need to learn how to live with the sharp barbs and quills that are part of coming together in oneness. The key to dealing with the barbs and quills that come from selfishness is learning you have to depend on someone else because you have no other choice. To experience oneness, you must give up your will for the will of another. But to do this, you must first give up your will to Christ, and then you will find it possible to give up your will for that of your spouse. Unless you give up your will and learn to depend on each other, selfishness will disable and destroy your marriage as you face the difficulties that are bound to occur. It is inevitable that some problems will enter into the marriage, but we have to remember that we have to give up that selfishness. We have to defeat that selfishness. And this was adapted by permission from Starting Your Marriage Right by Dennis and Barbara Rainey. And it was published like the Thomas Nelson publisher in 2000. So this is quite a piece. And see, it didn't take long for me to do it. I love you. This is Point of View with Shirley Polk right here on the World Wide Web. I am so happy that you are with me today. And whenever you're listening and watching this, just tell somebody else. Say, hey, Point of View with Shirley Polk is on. Or you can go to whatever it is, wherever I've shared this, you can go to it. Okay? And you can get it right here. YouTube.com. Shirley Polk Davis. Okay? I love you. Enjoy the remainder of your day. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful day. And you are beautiful too. I love you. Give me a call.